3, 2, 1.
Who are you?
It doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan. No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
Welcome to 50/50 Media.
Hello and welcome to Normee Reviews. I'm Normee, and this time I'm joined by my friend Cynic.
Hey.
And today we're going to be reviewing She-Hulk Episode 2. So for me, this episode was better than Episode 1, but that's not really setting a very high bar. But before we get into the specifics, what did you think of the episode, Cynic?
Well, it had some elements to it that you could see some good ideas under the surface. While this episode seemed to take some of the advice that you guys talked about last week, in regards to Jennifer Walters' character anyway, there's still some poorly written dialogue akin to the first episode, kind of like in the latest Thor movie, where every time they deliver a good line, they have to follow it up moments later with a funny line. The show is still devoid of comedy, though I know we did all get a chuckle out of the fourth wall break near the end, but we'll get to that in a moment. Normie?
Yeah, so this episode picks up shortly after the end of Episode 1 with some news reports talking about She-Hulk, and her and her friend, they go to the bar, and everyone's cheering for She-Hulk. So her friend tells her that she needs to transform, and there's some lines there talking about how she doesn't really like the name.
She also seems to hate the idea of being She-Hulk in general, especially in public. Doesn't like the name, and then she proceeds to bash on Hulk and the other Avengers and pretty much every superhero ever. But then her boss ends up showing up and fires her, and he says it's because as She-Hulk, she's too much of a liability to the company. Now, this is kind of also where it plays into a little bit of your topics from last week. Her actions actually have consequences here, and choosing to do the right thing is actually costing her. She ends up losing her job, and no one's willing to rehire her. We actually get a little montage of all the people rejecting her. So this kind of pushes that message of no good deed goes unpunished. Then we get to meet her family, which wasn't anything special, but we did get a little scene where Dad pulls her to the side and kind of gives her some words of advice. And I actually appreciate that. It's rare in Marvel, especially, that we see good dads.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. And then she ends up going to another bar, and the boss, I guess, of the other law firm from the first episode, he shows up there and offers her a job, which she's not really sure why or what's going on, but she agrees to it. And then she shows up for her first day at work, and the boss tells her that they want her for She-Hulk, so she's gonna need to be transformed while at the office and while she's in court.
And see, this is another idea that Stanton kind of touched on last week. And the idea is that people are going to like She-Hulk more than they like her as herself. Whereas the problem is, in this show, is there's no difference between her and She-Hulk other than the physical strength and the appearance. So just superficial and the super strength. But I guess they're at least trying. Then there's a little line where she says she's qualified as a lawyer, and it's not right that most people are going to think that she just got this job because she is She-Hulk. And it was good. But then, of course, they do the typical Marvel and they push it too far, and they take her to start pouting, saying that she wants to be able to celebrate, but now she can't. And all of this is conveyed through a fourth wall break, but it's not really a fourth wall break. It's just you're reading her thoughts as she's walking down a hallway. I mean, a terrible use of the fourth wall break.
Yeah, so she's told by the boss then that she has to represent Abomination. He's played by Tim Roth. Yeah, Tim Roth. So he tells her that he's better now, and that the serum that turned him into Abomination was given to him by the U.S. government. And I think by the end of it, their little conversation, she believes what he's saying, and she ends up wanting the job. And she calls Bruce to ask him, is what she says, but both her and him both end up agreeing that she wasn't asking. She was just telling him. But she just didn't want it to be weird, considering that Abomination tried to kill Bruce. But Bruce says that Abomination reached out, and all is good between the two of them. And that's when we get this good fourth wall break that Cynic mentioned earlier. So he says it was a long time ago, and he was a completely different person. And it quick cuts to her, and she kind of force laughs out like a to the audience, since of course, when Hulk actually fought Abomination, while Abomination was still played by Tim Roth, Hulk was played by Edward Norton. So that's the play on it, that he was a completely different person, even though it could still work out from his point of view that he is different, because back then he was, still trying to figure out his powers, and now he's, smart Hulk. But no, I liked it. I got a pretty good chuckle out of that, even if it was a little bit on the nose.
Or maybe not on the nose, but maybe it just reminded us of a time when Hulk was still badass. But they do tease here that Bruce is on his way back to Sakaar, so we could potentially get a true Planet Hulk or World War Hulk movie, though not sure if Mark Ruffalo is up to the task. He hasn't been good in anything since Age of Ultron.
Yeah, well, I mean, feeling that it's not gonna live up to what we would want it to be. But yeah. So Jen, she calls her boss, and she accepts the job. And he tells her to turn on the news, where it's showing reports of leaked footage with Abomination fighting Wong in the Underground Fight Club from Shang-Chi. And yeah, that's where it ends. It's a pretty short episode. Cynic, why don't you give us your final thoughts?
Well, as you said, it's a very, very short episode. When we cut the credits out, but still included the post-credit scene, it was 21 minutes and 45 seconds, roughly. And it was 21 minutes, 10 seconds without the post-credit scene. And the post-credit scene, by the way, wasn't anything special. It was just Jen as She-Hulk, helping out her dad around with chores around the house. She was like picking up a car, mounting a TV on the wall, carrying some water jugs, stuff like that. But anyway, so about 21 minutes is all we got of actual show. And like I said, there were some elements here that could have been really good, but the delivery just falls flat. The show is supposed to be funny, and it's not, but I will say that we had some pretty good laughs while we were editing the clips for this video, and I do hope that you guys get a good chuckle out of these. But yeah, it's just boring, and nothing really to draw you in. And while the fourth wall break at the end about Hulk being a different person was good, it's also lazy, because they've shown us they don't care about Hulk. But at least this gives me some hope that they do watch some other movies, but that also seems really weird because of all the inconsistencies in the continuity of all the other movies and shows, not just this one. So I guess they really do know how out of continuity their material is, and just how disrespectful it is to the original source material. And speaking of that, I actually saw an interview with Ewan McGregor where he asked the question, do you really want to see the same thing as a book you've read, like, brought to life in a movie? Which my answer is a definitive yes. Those stories are popular for a reason, and seeing them come to life on screen is vastly different than reading it in a book. And besides, there's plenty of people who don't actually know the source material, either because they don't like to read, or because they thought comics were for nerds, or whatever their reasoning may have been. The chance for them to get to see it on screen, they may end up liking it for the exact same reasons that all the original fans liked it. And your die-hard old fans are gonna like it and enjoy it because the creators are actually showing a true respect for the source material. They're actually trying to bring this to life. And that's the thing, is you already have a good story. Just do it justice, and you'll make the old fans happy, and you'll still get new fans. But they don't want us to just get along and discuss it like we used to. They want us to fight over it.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah, you make some really good points. And I would say I'd have to agree with pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, this is an improvement from the first episode. But, I mean, that's really not much of a compliment.
No, it's not.
But I guess we shall see what next week has in store for us. But yeah, so thank you for joining me today, Cynic.
No problem, Normie.
And until next week, I'm Normie.
I'm Cynic.
And we are 50/50 Media.
Well, that's it for this video. If you like what you saw here today, I do encourage you to hit that like button, the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all our future videos. I appreciate the time you've taken out of your day to join us. I'll see you in the next one. I'm Lord Koss, and we are 50/50 Media.